biggest issues plaguing modern men is that the vast majority of them lack a tribe of other virtuous, trustworthy, masculine men who gather for the sole purpose of improving themselves and their lives on a daily basis. Most men simply float through space, working a dead-end job, only to go home to a nagging wife or girlfriend that doesn't respect them. Their friend circles are nothing but fat, low testosterone losers who are more concerned with what sports teams are playing this weekend and what bar they're going to watch the game at. If these men are lucky enough to unplug from the comforting lies that modern society sells them and decide they want more out of life, they look around and realize they need to get into a better room. That's where a private community of men chasing excellence comes in. The men in our community have all committed to being the best versions of themselves that they can possibly be. They willingly run toward challenges, knowing that pushing themselves out of their comfort zones is the key to unlocking their true potential as men. If you're ready to take control of your life back and curate a network of successful and knowledgeable men, now is the time to seize the opportunity.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Ladies Night. Ladies, you can put your cameras back on if you would, please. Appreciate that. We're going to start with a little bit of intros. We'll just kind of go as we see in order, like we did before the show. Name, age, where you're from, all that good stuff. So I'll read that off really quick. Name, age, where you're from, what you do, your current relationship status, and then your reaction to the video like we spoke about. Casey, why don't we just start with you?
Okay, my name's Casey, or Casey May. I'm 22. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, and I am a live musician and student. I thought the video was pretty good. I think it is very relevant to what a lot of women nowadays are going through. And yeah, I really liked it.
And you are single, correct?
Yes, I'm single.
Okay. All right, Claire, on to you.
Hi, my name is Claire. I'm 42. I'm from Hawaii originally, but I live in Brooklyn, New York now, and I am married for 18 years, and I'm an actor, a model, and do filmmaking and performance art, put on art shows. So just living like the artsy New York life with my husband and 2 kids here. I love the video, by the way. I love it. It's like alone, but with your bros, which is so awesome. And I mean, it's hilarious. You said like all your fat, low testosterone friends to get away from. That's funny. But I want this for me, like with, either a bunch of dudes or my lady friends. I think everybody needs this for sure.
Okay. Larissa, on to you.
Hi, I'm Larissa Dolly. I am an actress and entertainer. I currently live in Houston, Texas. I am in a committed relationship, and I thought your video was fucking primal and sexy. So kudos. Yeah.
Okay. Write that down, Spence. Primal and sexy.
Primal
Don.
and sexy is great. That's the first time we've heard that.
Yeah, glowing review. Don, what about you?
Yeah, I'm Dawn. I am from Western Louisiana, originally from Dallas, Texas, though. I've been here for about 12 years, and I'm married. I'm 43. I have one 6-year-old little girl. And yeah, I do sales for a hormone replacement company. We also do stem cell therapy, so a lot of regenerative medicine called Bella Vita Clinics. And then I'm also an avid barrel racer. So I have horses and rodeo a little bit. So yeah, lots of fun.
Okay. And what was your reaction to our video there?
I love the video. I think, I think it was good. It looked like a Louisiana bayou. So I liked it a lot.
All right, cool. And then Connie, welcome back. On to you.
Hi, I'm Connie. I'm from Ontario, Canada. I'm 21 years old, a student working in marketing as well, and I'm single.
And our little video there. Go ahead, please.
Good.
Say your piece.
It was good.
No, come on. Let's
Let it
hear
rip. Come on. Come on. Let it rip.
Toxic masculinity.
The movie star trailers of like, hey everyone, okay, let's record. I don't know. Good. You guys did good.
Oh, yeah. See? All right, you're gonna have to be honest with us if we're gonna do this show tonight, Connie. So that's already strike one.
Was it the Hollywood cuts?
Is that what it was? It was the fact that it was professionally done? Is that why it was weird and cringy?
Sorry. That's why.
All right. That's totally fine.
I was expecting it when it was like a trailer. I thought it was gonna be like, I don't know, more intense than that.
Oh, so it wasn't
More
intense
intense.
enough. Wow.
No. Like,
Bring the intensity.
Like, I need to be drawn to it, and it wasn't really like that at the beginning. So
Wants to be hard hit.
All right. I think that's
she needs the planes
interesting
vying in
feedback.
Vegas and the guns going off is what she needs.
Yeah, well, YouTube frowns upon that kind of content, but that's good. We'll take that into consideration. All right.
What about boxing? The boxing was so good and hard.
I thought so. I mean,
like
we got some guys that can throw some hands. Cool. So
Tony's like, I didn't see anyone get knocked out though, so it wasn't good.
Yeah, I didn't see any blood.
More
I didn't see any blood or people like getting the shit kicked out of them, so I didn't like it. All right, so ladies, again, thanks for joining us, guys. Welcome back to the show. There's again, like we've done this in weeks past. We kind of asked the ladies beforehand some stances or topics they might have on dating, relationships, things like that. And there's kind of a common, at least 3 of them said something about men today being feminine and women having a hard time dating and marrying. So, I'd love to kind of start that and be the opening topic. I mean, Casey, you said it first. You're for traditional gender roles, but you're having a hard time finding guys that want to, that don't want to go 50-50. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that and your current experience?
My current experience, I mean, I am recently single, but I did go on a date, and I don't want to go to like one of your other topics, but I did go on a date recently, and he asked me, he's like, how do you feel about 50-50? And I was like, it's not like a masculine thing to ask that. And obviously I'm not hating on that at all, but it's like, I was like, all right, I guess I'm like 50-50. Like, I don't know. It's just like weird, but yeah.
But was he
I don't
coming
know.
from a place
like,
where, like, did he make it sound like he was about the 50-50 life, or he was just like curious to your answer? Okay, so he was
he
basically
wanted
saying
the 50-50 life for me.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
You said you were recently single. Like, why didn't it work out with the most recent guy?
I don't know. I think it was just he was my best friend for like 3 years. Very great guy. Nothing bad to say. But, I just think men nowadays, like, he just wanted to like go out and like I live in Charleston, so it's its own little world. There's 70% women here. It's like 4 girls to 1 guy. So,
So he was running around on you. He was wanting to date other girls. Like, what was it?
Yeah.
Because you hear best friend, he was a great guy.
Go live his life.
Nothing bad to say, and yet
I was just like,
with
go, But there's like nothing, like I don't have any hard feelings towards that, It's just the way it is nowadays. Like I don't know. I've lost all hope.
Be real. How many times did he cheat on you? Be real.
No, he never did. He never cheated.
So, but again, like when you say he wanted to go off and live his life, like what does that mean exactly?
I'm gonna have to like get really in depth and like not tiptoe over this, but he was like, all right, I'm going to Rome and like it's a boys trip. And I was like, all right, I really want to come. And he's like, no. And I find out like girls are going. So like one strike up with that, I was like, all right, I'm out, So it was a red flag. There's a lot of red flags. So yeah. I'm also young.
So he was
like I'm in college. So
what does that mean? Why is that an issue? Does it mean you can't date? Like just because you're in college? Like what do you mean?
I would say it's just harder nowadays. Like with social media, it's like kind of like impossible. Like you get pretty much endless options out there for guys and girls, like there's always that thought of like, oh, I could do better. Like there's always something better, you know? Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't
I
agree
might
that's
have,
the
yeah, I
reality
might
for
have just,
men.
yeah.
I would agree that's the reality for women. I would agree that women have endless options when it comes to dating because I think the average woman's inbox is flooded with guys that are offering to buy them things or fly them places or purchase bags or let them step on
Yeah.
them or whatever weird shit that they're into. But the average guy's experience is nothing like that. So it's like, I'm curious, but you said like you went on a date and you're sort of seeing the reality of what else is out there. So it's like, is there anything that's making you regret your decision, or is there anything that you're like, oh well, if these are my other options and what I have to deal with out there, maybe I should try to repair things with this other guy? Like, what's been your thought process?
No.
If you're uncomfortable, by the way, ladies, before we get into it, if there's anything, if I'm going down a road and you don't want to answer, just say I'd rather not. That's okay. We'll just move on.
No,
But,
it's okay.
we
I
try to
will.
do this
I will.
show.
I
We
will.
try to like talk about the real issues and what's going
I'll
on.
keep
But
it transparent.
yeah,
I'll keep
sure.
it transparent. I got you. All right. So basically, he was my best friend for 3 years. We dated.
He was your
We were
best friend
just
before you
friends.
dated. You were friends for 3 years and then you started dating. Okay, because that's like a common pattern. Like Larissa had the exact same thing,
Yeah.
which we'll get to. But best friends for 3 years first. But like, was this a guy
I
that
hope
you
he doesn't
friend
see this.
zoned, or that's all right?
Oh gosh.
It's not like your name's on
I
screen.
really
or
hope he doesn't see this.
He's
Okay.
watching right now.
But
I
I'm
saw
gonna
him in the
go. I'll
comments
go
actually.
through the lore. I'll go through the lore. I'll keep
All
it
right.
interesting.
Give us the cliff notes. Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you the summarized version.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely friend. Oh, I definitely friend zoned him, and then I went away. Like school ended, I went away to Spain. He comes and he like surprise. He's like, I really like you, and he was like going in on it, and I was like going in on like dating me, and I was like, all right, like maybe I'll give it a shot. Why not? So he ends up surprising me in Spain, and we book like he books like a whole like vacation, and it's awkward, it's like an awkward transition to go into that. I ended up catching feelings. That was fine. And then we did start dating, and he was a really great boyfriend, and then things kind of like didn't go the way I was wanting it to. Like he was away on break like 2 months ago, and like didn't text me for 2 weeks. So I was like, all right, I'm done. Like the Rome thing and that, I was like, I'm out. So yeah, I'm back in the Charleston dating pool.
Which sounds like is small if you're trying to find a guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
All right. So who else said something like that? I think it was, let's see. Claire was talking about marriage, which we'll get to. The friend thing. Let's stick on that because that is so weird to me, right? This idea that, and this is also very vindicating because we get women that come on the show all the time that have male best friends, or I've been friends with him for a long time and he doesn't want to sleep with me or would never even think of doing the two. And we say that, no, guys will wait for years, guys will wait for decades for their shot. And then we have two women on, a guy that waited for 3 years. And Larissa, you were friends with the guy for, you said 10 years before you got into a relationship with the guy. So what the hell? How did that happen?
Okay. Very similar to Casey. This is going to be difficult, and I want to be transparent. So I'm going to try my best to not gloss over, but also respect other people's boundaries. But I was in a relationship for 9 years prior with somebody who was my best friend, and we made a great partnership, but there was no intimacy. So for about 2.5 years, there was like no physical intimacy. And I had brought stuff up, and our friend who happened to had moved in with us that we all agreed upon, he and I got close. And as a mature adult, I mentioned to my partner at the time, like, hey, there's like, we're not being intimate. Can I be intimate with him? And he was like, no way. Like, you go out there and like, basically, can I say the F word?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. He's like, you can go and like fuck somebody in the wild, but that's not really how I'm kind of wired. And so when he told me, it's like, okay, well, you can't have him. And I was really open and honest. like the feelings kept bubbling up, bubbling up, bubbling up. And then it just broke. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to pursue a relationship with this guy then. And I broke up with the guy of 9 years. So there's a lot of nuance in there, but that's basically what happened.
So, but he wouldn't initiate with you, or what was the deal? Like, how did you go 2.5 years without sleeping with each other? Or you rejected his advances because you weren't giving it up to him because he became because here's what I hear in this brain. Spencer, you know where I'm going with this, right? This guy got lazy, he got comfortable, you lost attraction for him, you were too close in the space, you for whatever reason lost respect, stopped thinking he was a great guy, because I hear like, oh, best friend, great guy, nothing wrong with him, but great best friend, good guy doesn't equal giving women the tingles, if you know what I'm talking about here. So then you've got this other guy that moves in, and all of a sudden you've got those feelings again and you want to bounce. Did I get it?
So the weird thing about me is I would try to initiate, and he just kind of wasn't like at all a sexual at this time. And then of course, as soon as we break up, he's in therapy, he's fixing his like sexual issues, and he's like, I wonder why I didn't do this before. I'm like, I don't know. The comfortable thing is very spot on. I feel like he knew he had me. We were very comfortable together. Again, like everything was fine except for that piece. And I just couldn't go any longer. I was like, there's something wrong here and you're not doing anything about it. And I tried my best. I was like, well, what can I do? And so it was just there was a lot there. But so that part is absolutely correct. But then when like competition came into play, it got a little weird. So he like was showing me like, hey, like,
competition, the roommate.
Well, but that's the thing. And it was like, I don't know if I was just too honest about everything. But then when I finally like broke up with him and he started fixing himself and like doing better in life and working out again, it was like all these things where I'm like, why couldn't you do that when we were together? I don't know. It was wild. And so, yeah. And then the feelings had developed with the roommate / friend whom we had both known for 10 years, by the way. So, yeah.
And now you guys are still together.
We're still together. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've seen it before. We've heard it. We've heard many stories like that because, you know, guys get comfortable and guys, you know, let themselves go, or they, the comfort thing is huge. Getting too comfortable with somebody is definitely something that happens in especially long-term relationships. But I don't know, Lewis, I got to be honest. There's something here. I think something's fishy here. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know a lot of guys that lose interest sexually in women. The majority of guys that become beta-tized and they get comfortable, it's almost always the sexist relationship is because he wants it and she doesn't. So it's, I find it hard to believe.
Unless their testosterone is low.
I mean, how old was this guy?
He's in his 40s.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, the timeline checks out. Yeah, I mean, the timeline checks out.
Don's like, I'll put him on TRT. We'll get him fixed.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, the timeline checks out when we talk about the 40s. Yeah, it's just like, it's very rare that a guy will lose interest in sex with a good-looking woman that is, you know, dating him. But maybe that's just maybe this is the exception here. I mean, I have a question for you that maybe is a little off topic. So I like to do some, you know, not a deep dive, but I like to scroll and take a look at our guests' Instagrams before they come on. You are very comfortable with showing skin, and you're very comfortable with, you know, sexuality and your modeling and things like that. But I noticed that I didn't see any pictures of you with a man on your profile or with a boyfriend or any sort of relationship. So what's that all about?
For a while, I like wanted to keep that separate. And at this point in my life, I'm ready to integrate that. But because of the modeling and the industry I was in, I like partly wanted to keep it private, partly loved like that allure, like the ego of kind of like, yes, come to my page, like all that kind of thing. That has
because you have a chance and I don't have a man.
Right. Like kind of like, and as bad as that may sound, that's like how I feel like I used to be. But after a lot of working on myself, at this point, I've kind of, if you like look, I've stopped showing as much skin, like kind of getting away from that industry. I've worked as a dancer in the sex industry. Like we don't have to go there, but very comfortable with it, but kind of trying to like maneuver out. So I'm also I'm a very open person, but I like to keep my relationship private for the sake of my partner because I am in the public eye. So there's like a balance there. But
yeah, but it's sexual in nature, right? I mean, it's like, it's like your base, like what you're doing and what women are doing, women in general, like when women are posting scantily clad photos, bikini shots, sexual photos and things like that, those are indicators that I am a single woman or that I'm advertising myself and I'm on the market. So it's like, is that like, is he cool? I mean, maybe he says he's cool with it. I mean, I'd be hard pressed. I think he probably wouldn't be. I don't know your guy though, but it's like, but if you could scroll a little bit, like you still have a lot of stuff on there. And it's like, is there anything else that you're doing behind the scenes? Are there any other pages that may give a guy like that pause that we should know about? Is there anything else besides Instagram? Because like usually modeling and entertainment and content is a code for other things that may not be appropriate for a teenage audience.
right. Are you asking?
I mean, I'm not,
Like,
I mean, I'm going there kind of.
well, that's like what I've said. I'm in like a transitional period, and I've worked a lot of those avenues, right? So like at this point in time, I think I'm ready to integrate like my relationship status into the online world. But yeah, it's something that I wasn't comfortable with for a long time for many reasons. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm going to get this super just because we have to, because it's over the limit, but I don't know if it's really applicable. But I'll read it. Women never want to go 50-50 until the divorce comes. Ask women why they deserve a provider man in traditional gentlemanly courtship when most are feminists and offer none of the things in return that a man such desires. Yeah, I'm kind of off topic. We're not really there yet, but I want to come back to that question with Casey. Actually, I want to get to Claire and Connie and Dawn a little bit. So Casey, hold that thought. But Claire, you mentioned, so you're married, been married a long time, first and only marriage, I'm guessing. Oh, please. Yes. Continue.
Of what you were saying about posting.
Yeah.
Pictures. My husband will get super pissed if I post scantily clad pictures. And I think it's just like the immediate male response that he's like, other men are seeing you this way. And he knows that it might be even like a professional picture, like a modeling shoot or something, or just me in a bikini like in Hawaii, but as like a woman, and if I like modeling and you're like, I want to put, sometimes I have to show my body just so people are like, who are hiring me will be like, oh, that's what her body looks like. Mm-hmm. And just because I have tons of other model friends posting like gorgeous pictures of them in bikinis everywhere, so it makes you like, I want to do it too. But of course, I think we do deep down are like, yeah, we want that sexual attention.
Yeah, because you've got portfolios, right? Like you have an agent, you can send that, you can have a portfolio. It doesn't have to be on a public Instagram. Like an agent can get in touch with your people.
It's like so much when I do like a runway show or something, they like take the pictures just straight from your Instagram. I'm like, why didn't you ask me? I have better pictures than But
fair enough.
It's a hard give and take, and it's not nice for the men in our lives, I think, most of the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, Spencer, go ahead.
Most guys who are seeing those photos, if you're posting something in a bikini on Instagram, most guys who see those want you to be single. They're hoping you're single. It's not uncommon once a girl posts her boyfriend on her Instagram, if she loses followers or her likes go down, or when she takes her boyfriend off of Instagram, there's immediately guys sliding in the DMs like, "Hey, you single?"
Yeah, I do get more like on videos that are with like my husband and family, though. So I've noticed, but.
But are men really like that naive to think that even if there's only that they don't have a boyfriend in the background? I mean, are y'all really that naive? Come on.
I'm not. Spencer's not, but many guys are. Yeah. I mean, look, like, you know how I know? Go to any. I mean, here's how I know.
But
here's how I know.
Truly know.
go to Larissa's Instagram after the show and look at her comments. No, and look at her comments, or Casey's. Look at the comments, and first of all, a lot of it'll be like from girlfriends. Like, oh, slay queen. Oh my god, my best friend's so pretty. Like, oh, it'll be all that shit. But like, when you get to a certain level of popularity or followers on Instagram, especially when if your following is like 20,000 and you're only following 50 people or 100 people, you're going to see just rows and rows and rows of like, oh my god, so beautiful, like, oh my god, like, oh, I love you, just like random dudes
Fire
that you would never
emoji,
give
fire
the time
emoji.
of day. Fire emoji, heart eyes, I love you, marry me, shit like that. But yes,
Yeah,
that is
that's what I'm saying.
what
That's what I'm
many
saying.
men
So-
actually think that is a viable way to get a woman's attention. Yes, because they all do
Yeah.
it. Like
But
if they knew
can't
that, if they
really
knew
think
better,
that
they
they're
wouldn't.
single, right? I mean, you guys really believe that they're single?
That's the allure. I mean, look, it's just like, it's the same thing as when girls run OnlyFans and they're the ones that are on the screen, but there's a guy typing on the monitor behind them and chatting with the guy. They have agencies that actually, you have a dude that is like talking to another dude and he thinks he's talking to her. Like, that's absolutely reality. So yeah, absolutely. These guys think that. And part of that is because it's like guys are taught, all you gotta do is be nice. All you gotta do is compliment women. And it's we talk about this thing about, men today are feminine. Why do we think that is? Like, real quick. Like, so ladies, if we are all in agreement around this panel that modern men are, if we're struggling to find masculine men, like, where have all the masculine men gone? What do we think is the result? Like, what do we think this is a result of? Like, why is this happening?
Plastic.
Why has this happened?
Too much
What is it?
Too much plastic.
What do you mean?
Water and food.
So estrogenic and hormones. Sure, I buy that. But I think there's a larger elephant in the room. Does anybody care to weigh in?
I think the way boys are being raised, of course.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
I agree
Go on.
with her.
Yeah, go ahead, Dawn.
What do you mean by being raised?
Like, you're being raised, no, not you, but younger generational men are being raised that everyone gets a trophy. There's you're allowed to like have your feelings, show all your feelings. If you need to show emotion on every little thing, if you don't get your way, like, it's just, that's kind of how I'm gathering. Maybe I'm wrong, but what do you think?
I think a lot of boys now, they're raised very soft. It's I don't think there's like, I don't know if there's a lack of like the male modeling, like you're, taking them out on these trips and doing, I think almost most boys should have like martial arts in their life. They should have outdoors, and you should have strong male role models. But I see so many parents like not disciplining their kids, feeding into their young kids, giving them whatever they want to eat, feeding them garbage foods and being too soft on them. So I don't know. I think that's a big problem.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Connie, do you have something? I thought I saw you raise your hand. Or do you care to weigh in? I mean, do you agree with this? Do you think that like guys your age are feminine? They're not masculine? Like, do you think that that's an issue?
I think that has more also to do with with just what's going on in society. Like, I don't think it's just men either. I think it's women too, in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, just the way that they're like raising everybody to like, I don't know. I feel like it's like all these kids that are younger and growing through their development stages are being pressurized in like, okay, you don't have to be a guy or girl or anything or like this person or that person, or you can just do whatever you want. You can be a giraffe, you can be anything. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like it confuses kids or younger people, not just men, but just younger generations are confused on like what, I don't know, people are trying to say really. Because I don't remember having those kind of feelings or really till later on in my life and actually knowing what they were or knowing about them. So I find that maybe guys are just like, I don't know, falling more into that path of the society and how life is going now. if
Okay.
anyone agrees.
There's a word that hasn't come up yet. I want to see if it does, but I want to go to Larissa and then Casey, and then I'm gonna break the ice. But I want to see their opinions on like why they think this is. Why do you think? Because you both have said, yeah. I mean, I get Larissa. I know you've been out of the dating game a little while, but I mean, I think it's noticeable, right? I think that there's more problems with men and women dating now. More women and men are apart than they have been. I think we are seeing, feminization of modern men. Why do you think that is?
It's interesting you say that because like there is quite a difference in between like the older generation and the younger generation, but I can agree with kind of the raising soft, like, you're not taught to go play outside, like everyone's out to get you, stranger danger, germs, like all these things where it's like the fear has just put up a wall to where like guys are afraid to get their hands dirty. They're afraid to, they're afraid to try and fail. And that goes for all of us, I feel. And, but that's kind of my 2 cents on it. Like, I agree with you, Claire, like you were saying, so.
Okay. Casey, what do you think? I'm still waiting on the word. I'm hoping somebody, Casey, you're my last hope. My last hope.
I want to know
you.
that.
The word.
What is it? I'm just saying, but why do you think that it is?
Well, I honestly just agree with what Connie said. I think it's not just men, it's women as well. Just like you said, like, you point out
But in what,
a
like
woman's...
women, what are like women are being raised more masculine? Like, what are we talking about exactly?
Yes.
We're talking about
Yes,
women. Okay.
but also you did point out like my Instagram has like bikini pictures, whatever. I mean, I'm not on OnlyFans. I'm not like, you're not getting like that, like the real version.
Sure.
It's like you're not getting the face-to-face version, but I don't know. I agree with what Connie said. I think it's both men and women.
In terms
What do you
of
think that women are doing that contribute to this issue?
I can see what you're saying now, Spencer. So like I feel like maybe some guys are fearing of having that masculinity to them because it's toxic or it's labeled as like too aggressive or like you're more of a force instead of a flow, which I'm a flow and you're a force, so that's an issue because you're doing all these things and I don't need that. I need these things. And like that's typical with men and women is like you're either the force or you're the flow. But I don't know, I feel like maybe they're just being labeled as the wrong things. So they're trying to approach life in a more softer way because like they're getting everyone's being sensitive to how they're acting.
But you see it like paralyzes societies. Like in Japan, the men are so afraid to take out women because they're so afraid to say the wrong thing or be like labeled as, a
misogynist,
pervert or
so, and you don't see that like in other cultures too. Like that's a thing. Like that's normal. Where like, this is happening. It's not all over the world that it's like what we just are normalized to.
Yeah, no, it's really just like maybe Europe a little bit and us, but other cultures, like the man does the man things and the woman, takes care of the kids and at home. So yeah, I don't know how we've gotten so far away from like other civilizations.
I can also I have a thing about that. Like if women are seeking traditional men, because it's like now all these women have these values, like the men has to be like this, traditional, back in the old days, this, and this, and this. But like, does that also mean that I'm traditional woman too? Like, am I just looking for traditional man to do all these things? What am I? Am I just going to keep going on with what I'm doing, or am I falling into traditional ways myself?
I mean, all the women here in New York City who are like searching actively for partners, husband in their life or partner, they are looking more for a traditional man, and they're totally willing to be like the traditional wife. They want a fighter, and they don't mind working as well, like to help support the household, but they're not looking to be like executives with a stay-at-home dad. They're like looking for a man to have the traditional life, and have kids and take care of the kids and do all that. And these are young, gorgeous, you know, models and everything. That's what they want.
Yeah.
Well, the word of the day, ladies and gentlemen, is feminism. And that's why it's a problem. Because you've taken this thing that is convinced women that they are not only better than men, but they are at the same time oppressed by them. So, which are two completely conflicting ideas, and they can't coexist at the same time. And so, for the last 20 years, or even longer, maybe the last 30 or 40, men have been told that they are the sole reason that the world has all of these problems, that straight white males are the enemy, that they need to be wiped off the face of the earth, that they don't deserve a place here, that they are the perpetrators of every mass atrocity that's ever taken place since the beginning of history and time and civilization. And so when that sort of thought becomes mainstream and is pushed on a large percentage enough of the population, then this is what you're going to get. You're going to get feminized men. You're going to get men that believe it's their duty to step aside and let women ascend to their rightful place at the table or rightful place at the throne. It's, and the irony behind that is, like, women don't even want to be at the head of the table anyway. They don't want to be at the head. They don't want to drive the car. They want to have a relationship and be with a guy who can lead them to the right place. And we kind of got there towards the end. You know, it's like, if you want traditional men, then why aren't women staying being traditional women? Because every time you ask that, it's like, oh, well, this isn't 1950 anymore. But it's, you know, and this is why, and we can, I wanted to delve into this. We'll come back to it, Claire, as far as marriage goes. But that's something interesting too, because there's a couple of things that KC said before the show, and Connie, like we've talked about this before with like the girls' trips, where it's like, a lot of women think, like, for example, like Casey, you brought up, you've got your own career goals, like you've got your careers for your life. You want to do things that are going to help you financially and socioeconomically. But what a lot of women don't realize, and the trap that a lot of women fall into, because they're mostly pushed this way because of the feminism, it's like, the more money you make, the more successful you become, the more degrees that you get, the more accolades you require, the smaller your dating pool ultimately gets, because you want a guy inherently that is better than you, makes more money, a better leader, knows more, is smarter. And so it's like, women are finding out every day that, oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to work for 20 years and go get my MBA and become like a CFO at a bank. Where is my buffet of men that are supposed to be here now that I'm ready to stop and settle down? So that's what I think it is. I think it's this mass messaging that is overtaken, and it's
By a small percentage,
largely,
by the way. It's a small percentage of
yeah,
women that feel that way that has taken over. You know what I mean?
But it is like a mass messaging, like it through the schools and everything.
Yes.
Tragedy, because we have like a young friend who was 17, a young white male, and I think that heavy burden on him, he ended up killing himself. And we see that's an epidemic that's going throughout this country, so it is something that has to be fixed.
I think it's more the white, like when you say the typical white men, I just feel like maybe that's more of like just a colonized approach, like they just are trying to like colonize, like,
well, it's through a colonization lens that they're teaching kids that
and they're trying to decolonize.
What is a colonization lens? What does that mean?
Teaching it that it was bad, that like whatever white society,
like teaching it through a lens of not the real like things. It's like white supremacy. Like it's kind of like we're trying to decolonize the way that we were taught in life.
Yeah, but I don't remember going to school and being told that we got here because of white supremacy, like that all of these great monuments and all of these great achievements and these great human discoveries got here because of white supremacy as a political ideology. And now we're trying to reverse that. Like, that's the poison that's being pushed on kids in schools, that there's actually, everything great that's ever happened, like being able to land a man on the moon, if you believe in that, or having a cell phone in your hand, is a result of white supremacy. And we need to deconstruct that. I mean, it's absolutely insane, if you ask me.
Yep.
Anyway, Let's move on to, because I was gonna, well, I want to stick on that quickly because Casey, like, again, I don't want to drone on this too long, but you did mention you're like, you got your career goals, you've got things going out, so you've got things that you want to achieve, but you're also you're of this traditional sort of mindset. So like, how does that reconcile? Like, how do you sit here and say like, okay, well, I want to go be successful in my career, but I also want to find a man that's not going to go 50-50. Like, how do those two things work simultaneously?
I think it can work. I don't think it needs to be so black and white. I think you can have a man that supports your career goals and also is the leader as well. I don't think it has to be so like, I can't do anything. I got to stay home all day and like stare in the mirror and like do my makeup. Like, no, I just don't think that would work best for me. Like, there's certain things that I want to do in my life and accomplish. And if there's someone that will support me through that, that would be amazing and beautiful. So, yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Let's imagine a
Spence.
scenario, though. Hold on. Let's imagine a scenario where you have an opportunity for your career that's going to really elevate your career if you move to this city, but the guy you're with wants you to move to a different city, and you're split between these two options. Which one are you taking?
I would choose myself. I don't know. I would choose like whatever's right for me. If it's like not the guy, I don't know. I feel
Like he's the guy. He's the guy you want to be with.
and he wants to move to a different city just randomly.
Yeah. Well, maybe he has something with his career that his career is gonna go.
Yeah, maybe
go
he's
up
going
in
to get a big
different city.
promotion. He'll make a lot more money, things like that.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Long distance.
Yeah.
So you can work it out.
Yeah.
If
I'm
he
doing
really
my
loves her,
Yeah.
you would do long distance for a little bit.
I don't
try a
know.
different-
I just feel
Let me try
I
a
just
different
feel
tact.
like
Finish that thought, Casey. I'm going to ask
Yeah.
this question. Go ahead.
I just feel like in life when times have changed and we have to face that like it's not traditional anymore. Like everything has changed in our society and women do have career goals now and I'm obviously like I'm not I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to be too controversial in my
No,
opinion, but
because
Please.
one of the
yeah.
Please do.
one of the things we haven't brought up is the beauty that we have this choice, that we're at a time where we can discuss things like this. I think that's super important, and we haven't really mentioned that. Like we as women have a choice now to, like, if we want a traditional role or non-traditional role, and that's a huge step. And like it kind of takes me back to that feminism thing where
I think it's terrible, but come on, continue.
why is it terrible?
Oh, I'll get to it in a second, but finish your thought. I'll tell you what.
No, well, because it's
No,
like
continue. I'll finish my thought. Yeah.
the bastardization of what like these once I think beautiful concepts of feminism have become. It makes me sad because it's all about us being at a choice to have the freedom to want what we want and be ambitious without not being allowed to. So
Yeah.
Well, here's why I think it's mostly negative, because women often make terrible decisions when it comes to major life decisions. You look at the single mother epidemic, you look at the kind of men that women usually go for, you look at guys that are in jail for murdering their entire family, getting love letters, you look at guys that assassinate CEOs of major corporations that employ millions of people, getting gunned down in the streets, and they're getting love letters and underwear sent to them in prison. Women, as far as when left to their own devices, when it comes to consumer spending, they generally don't pay down their debts. They own more than double the credit card debt that men do. They are negative. They're a net negative when it comes to tax revenue. They consume far more than they produce for society when it comes to all these things. So like giving women these free reins to make these choices, while you would think it's like, oh, good, everybody should have the right to choose and everybody should be able to choose on their own. What this has done, and like it all started with the 19th Amendment, right? Like giving women the right to vote, I think was actually a mistake, because you're taking an entire group of people that don't actually have skin in the game. For example, like women don't have to sign up for selective service. So if the draft comes back and we're going to go to war with whoever we're going to go to, they're not going to draft from women. Can vote to send us to war, but they're not the ones that have to go there and fight. It's going to be men on the front lines. And when you have an entire group of people that can be voted, or they can vote when they have no accountability or no responsibility, or have to answer for their votes and their actions, I think that's kind of fucked up. And I would tell you this, like, I don't know a single woman that has had a successful career and then has had kids and wishes that they didn't have kids and had more money and had more career. I know a ton of women that have had a career and have had kids and say, I wish I didn't work so much. I wish I spent more time with my children. I wish that I didn't get that promotion. And they're even doing research and studies now that are coming out saying that the most miserable women are women that are trying to do it all, that are trying to have successful careers and successful marriages and raise children. And it's like, it's literally impossible. You can't do it. They're saying because you kind of have to pick one, and whichever one you pick is fine, I would say. But I think the problem is that women are being sold this lie of you can have it all. You can go be the boss girl and make a whole bunch of money and go travel and make these degrees, and you can do all this, and you can postpone and put off marriage and having kids and all that stuff because you don't want to be, a handmaid's tale under ball and chain because you have freedom now, girl. You go, girl. And yet we've had multiple women on our show that are in their 40s and their 50s that are childless and unmarried that are like, please, women, if you hear this, don't do what I did. Like, don't take this path. Like, marry young, settle down, have a bunch of kids, find a guy that will take care of you and that will embody traditional roles. So yeah, I ultimately don't think I don't think having this choice has been beneficial. I think it's ultimately been detrimental. Casey, you had something?
I did want to add something very quick. My sister's 34 and she has 2 children. She's happily married, like found her soulmate. She's like, I think I'm gonna go back to work, and she's exhausted from her children. She loves them and she's having a blast with them, but I'm like, don't do that because you will lose your feminine energy.
How does she think it's gonna get better?
You can't do both.
Well, I will say
that's just life. But
yeah. No, I will say it's a balance because I took off 10 years from working so that we could get married, have a child. It took 3 years to get my daughter because I waited till I was 36 to try to get pregnant, and it was difficult. But I took off that time, and then once she started school, like I was ready to go back to work because I needed some like adult conversation and like, but I balance it, and I think that's
spend all day talking to a little kid.
Yeah, exactly. And there's only so much you can clean the house and do laundry and stuff before you're like, oh my gosh. I think it's important for women to have like their own thing, but I don't think it needs to be like the only thing. Does that make sense?
I will say, I think there's something to that in a way where, having children or if they go off to school, like, what are you going to do all day? You only clean the house so much. You can only do your nails and your hair so much. I understand all that. But I don't think there's not a push to get women to take hostess roles at Applebee's. There's not a push to get women to be like receptionists and make $30,000 a year, like at a doctor's office, and be, off their feet all day and in low stress environments and jobs. It's all about, you need to go compete with men. You need to climb the corporate ladder because it's not only you're just as good at men and everything, you're actually better at everything than men. There's nothing that you can't do that a man can do better. That's the issue that I have. It's much less of it. If they're like, hey, listen, like, you know what, I would say, like, to my woman, if I was like, oh yeah, cool, like I'm going to go at work and the kids are of age, they're in school all day, and you need something to do from the hours of 8 to 3, cool. Like, start a little business at home, go sell stuff on Etsy, like design shit on Canva. I don't care. Do something to keep yourself busy and not be bored. But going to work and sacrificing your potential of coming home potentially in a bad mood because Stacy said some bullshit to you at the water cooler, or Mr. Johnson, your boss, is making you work longer hours. And so then you start sacrificing your good mood, your pleasantry, your feminine energy, if that's what you want to call it, all for a guy that doesn't even care that you're there. Because guess what? When you get sick, Doug Johnson, your boss, isn't coming over and taking care of you. I mean, sometimes he does. Like, I mean, if I don't know what goes on, but he's not the one that's going to be taking care of you when you're sick. He doesn't care about your kids. If you become a liability, you're gone. And it's
Mhm.
like there's these women that are in such a rush to go dedicate their lives to an employer and somebody who actually doesn't care about you as much as what you can do work wise and productivity wise and add shareholder value. They're so quick to go do that. But the idea of dedicating their lives to a family, into a husband, into children, in a home, it's like vampire and meets garlic. And
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
I think
I mean,
it's
I
the
agree with
same
you on
thing
that.
with the young kids, like even young girls I know who are in college right now and are getting offers with Microsoft for like $20,000 a month jobs straight like during the summertime, just in college, and big huge paychecks afterwards. Her plan is just to work like a few years at a company, and then she's like, then I'm gonna just like retire and try to just be an artist and find a family, find a husband, and do that. Even my young daughter who's 18, she's like, she's what she already talks about. I want to have a family. I
Yeah,
want
I
kids.
understand.
So I
I mean,
think
but nothing ever goes according to plan, though. It's like it's the same thing as women who go to college and they like, oh, like, I got to strip my way through college, or I've got to get on and do OnlyFans so I can get my way through college, and I'm only going to do it until I can get my degree. I'm only going to do it till I make X amount of money, and then they go work flipping burgers at McDonald's, and they're like, "What are you talking about? I only made $20 today. I made that in 3 seconds when I just posted myself on camera." So like, it's just. I think the more you get into it, the harder it becomes to get out of it. And it's women put that off like, oh, well, I'm in line for a big promotion, so I'm actually not going to quit right now because I'm going to make more money, or I've got an awesome opportunity to travel and do all these things, so I'm going to put off kids. And then all of a sudden it's like, oops, 35, where'd all the time go? 40, where'd all the time go?
What about guys doing that?
What's that?
I said, what about guys doing that?
Well, it's different. It's different for men and women because guys can put off having kids into their, I mean, if they're healthy, and like Dawn can back me up on this. Go ahead.
I don't mean having, like, I don't obviously mean that, but I mean, like,
what do you mean?
Like when you're at home, or like say the kids are at school all day and like you're at home and you're a stay-at-home mom, let's just say. But the man's working all day, then he comes home, he's tired, he doesn't want to talk to me really, has barely have any time to hang out with the kids, and it's like that every day because he's doing this for us. Like, what about that instant?
Well,
like, what do you do in that position?
You do your best to make that man's life as easy as humanly possible. You don't add unnecessary stress to his life. What's that?
Like I
It's really
get what you're
easy.
saying, don't add any stress to his life, but like, what
Yeah.
if he's not giving you exactly what you need in your life, like that little nurturing aspect where like you come home and like you share these values at home as a family, but he's working all the time and he's stressed out, so he can't do that. And like, I don't want to stress you out even more, so now I'm going to walk on eggshells around you because
Well, you shouldn't have to walk on eggshells around a guy. Like, it's really easy not to stress a guy out. You just be generally pleasant to be around. What happens if what? Well, I mean, if
Like,
you're stressing a guy out, then you need to look internally and figure out why you're doing that. Like, what's the issue?
maybe
Like,
it's not
if your
me
mere
stressing
presence
him.
stresses a guy out, then like that's a you problem.
Usually what ends up stressing a guy out like that is because he's away at work, working all day, stressed out from
For
work.
you.
He comes back, he comes back, and then he still has to make dinner at the end of the day because you didn't. Or like
No,
so,
but like, wouldn't be making dinner. He'd be coming home and you made dinner for him because he's not going to come home and make dinner after he just worked all day. So you're
Connie, I
going to
think I
make
know where you're going. I think I know where you're going. I think that,
Know what I mean?
there are guys, and I'll get you a second, Claire, I promise. I think there are men out there that work really hard, become workaholics, and women are like, oh, he's never got time for me. He's never got time for this. But
kind of like that.
it's kind of like that's what you get for dating a real motherfucker. It's like, if you want a guy that's home all the time, if you want a guy that's super attentive and it's always waiting on you, I know it's not what you're saying. I know that's the extreme the other way, but it's like this guy that I want him to be paying attention to me, and it's like, because here's the deal. Like, if you're a stay-at-home wife or you're a stay-at-home mom, or even if you have like a little desk job, it's unlikely that anything really interesting happened to you at work. Like most men come home and the stuff that their wife wants to tell him is like, fucking Stacy is such a bitch. Can you believe what she said to me today? Like, and he's just like, oh my God. Like, oh, did you hear what happened to me at work? I almost got fired, or a client didn't come in. Like, oh, I almost lost the house because I'm trying to just keep a roof over our head so I can pay the mortgage. And like this new guy was like, it's like the average, and this isn't your fault. And this isn't women's fault as a whole. They just don't know. The average guy, the stuff that the average dude is shouldering and dealing with on a daily basis is astronomical. Like the problems that the average man is going through, making sure the bills are paid, making sure the roof is over your head, making sure that you're provided for and you're protected and all these things. And it's like women's problems are like in that kind of role. Like, so I don't blame a guy for being like, Jesus Christ, like really, this is what I got to listen to. I got to listen to your spat with Deborah at work. No offense to Deborah Brady. Shout out to Deborah in the chat, but I got to listen to your spat about Deborah. And like, she said something kind and mean to you. And it's like, so it's, what I will say is this: men who receive nurturing and pleasantry and care and the good feminine energy will reciprocate, because here, like, and it's like, they will. But most men don't have that experience. Most men are getting nagged. That's why I put the nagging wife or girlfriend in that intro, because a lot of women are just like, you didn't take the trash out when you said you're going to take the trash out. Or I said be home at 6 and you came at 6:04. Like, what the hell? Do you not love me? Do you not care about me? And for the most part, if a guy is with you, married to you, put a roof over your head, everything he does on a daily basis is to make sure that you're taken care of and okay. And so I think that's largely, now, am I saying that guys don't need to be in tune with his woman's emotions and they don't need to be able to offer sort of that comfort? Yeah, they should know what they're doing. But and it's why like long-term relationships and marriages are ultimately like playing the game on hard mode. And this is something I wanted to kind of go in with Claire. I want to kind of put an exclamation point or a period on this point before we get to that. But I mean, does anybody have anything to say on that? Does anybody have any comments on what I just said?
I was just going to say that a lot of older men who worked super hard, like lawyers for all their life for 60 years and worked really hard, paid all the bills, made tons of money so their kids could go to private school, pay for the house, renovations, wife's shopping, everything. They do regret later on in life that they missed so much with their kids, especially. And that's, so men have it too, where they feel regret because they missed out on so much. And I think a lot of men wish that they would have chose to not work as hard and like sacrifice. Maybe the kids didn't go to private school so that they could have been there more often, or just the house wasn't as nice so that I could have gone and been the baseball coach and stuff like that. So yeah, it goes both ways.
And I don't dispute that. Yeah, I agree. I know a lot of successful men, but here's the deal: like hyper successful men are extremely rare. Like they're not the majority at all. Like they're the very small minority. But I understand what you're saying. So I do think that it is incumbent for men to sort of strike that balance. And I know successful friends of mine that are like, yeah, I founded a company and I sold another one, and I wish that I had not done all that because I miss my kids growing up, and now like they resent me or they won't talk to me, and now I've got all this money in the bank, but I've just got no family and that sort of thing. So yeah, I do think there's got to be some sort of level of balance there. And I also think that's a large part of why we're seeing a lot of feminine men. Like I talked about the feminism, but I mean, more, especially men and especially young boys, like more kids in general are being raised by single mothers now than ever before. And say what you will about mothers, but I am generally of the school, like, I don't think men should take dating advice from women. I don't think men should take advice on how to be a man from women, because it's just, and it's not their fault, but we both live on such different planets and our experiences are just so vastly different simply because of the differences in how men and women experience the world. Like just at their core, inherent differences. Yeah, go ahead, Connie.
Why don't you just not take their advice then? Like obviously you can't control what someone's saying, but like just don't take, if you're not gonna take advice.
Oh, I don't.
Exactly. So then there you go. It's fine.
No, like, because there's a lot of men out there that do. I think a lot of men are taking a ton of advice from. There's women out there that are exclusively dating coaches for men. I think it's a terrible thing to do. I think it's charlatan. I think it's a charlatan thing. I think that they have no idea, and I think it's a money grab. I think there's a lot of lonely, sad, desperate men that think that if they listen to what women want, and women have a very terrible track record when it comes to being honest about what they want in a guy. Because I bet, we're not going to go around the panel, but we've asked women this before, and we stopped doing it because we get all of the same answers. I want a guy that cares. I want a guy that is nice. I want a guy that listens to me. I want a guy that's open, emotionally intelligent, whatever the hell that means. He listens to me and takes care of me and this kind of thing. And it's almost never do they say he's got to be tall, he's got to be handsome, he's got to be jacked, he's got to make money, he's got to get me going. Because when women talk about what they want in a guy, they're already picturing a man they're attracted to who has all those other additional stuff. Because men that you're not attracted to, you don't even see them. They're invisible to you. So you're not like 80% of men are already wiped off the face of the planet as far as most women are concerned. They just don't believe they exist, right? So I think it's a terrible thing when women decide to be relationship coaches or life coaches and their clients are men. Like, you want to talk about women, but here's the thing too, and you might not like this. I think women generally give other women bad advice because I think there's more competition between women than there is between men. Competition between men actually pushes society forward, and competition between women actually draws society down. At least if you have two men competing with one another, it's because they're trying to build something or because competition brings out the best. And at least if I'm beating somebody at something, another guy at something, at least it's to achieve a new height or it's to create something or it's to build something more. But women are generally only competing with other women for the attention of men. And so that's not beneficial to anybody. So yeah, I really don't think, I think women are happiest when they have a family and a home and a man that takes care of them and children that they can nurture and look after. And yeah, maybe they've got some girlfriends, but I don't really believe the sisterhood actually exists. I think women are a lot more cutthroat than men are. But in any case, I'm getting off topic here. But yeah, no, I personally don't take advice. I don't think men should take really any sort of advice, from women in the terms of dating and relationships or even, life advice, because it's like me trying to give advice to a black guy on how to be black. It just doesn't work. It couldn't work.
Well, actually, that is funny because sometimes I actually have drawn away from talking to women for that exact reason. If I'm going to talk to someone about something, it's usually I prefer to talk to a male.
Same.
Just honestly, it's not that I don't respect or support women, because I totally do, but I just would rather not hear their experience or biases from a woman's perspective. I'd rather hear it from a male perspective, and I've always thought like that. Always.
Women are emotional and men
Yeah,
are
I'd just rather hear the straight to the point, what I'm asking from a different view, not from a woman's view. I want it from a male's view because I know from a woman's view I'm a woman. So
But that raises the question though. It's like, then would you be cool with a female prime minister or a female president if that's the case? I mean, if you don't look to women for advice or to give things to you straight or to be logically 2 + 2 = 4, should they be in positions of power?
It's just I need a good
You
leader,
just said it.
qualities. I mean, I guess prime minister, there's never been a woman prime minister. So that's just.
But I'm saying there's never been a female, there's never been a woman president either, but we almost had one twice now. What I'm saying is, if you're not comfortable with going to women for basic advice around life and opinions, would you be comfortable with one being the leader of the free world?
I don't know.
Dawn says no.
I don't know.
I say that because I think women make decisions based on emotions, and I don't think that you can run the free world and based on emotions.
I do. I'm not an emotional woman. That's why, maybe because I was raised by I have 3 brothers, my dad. I think I was raised kind of in a very male environment, and so I'm not that womanly of a woman in that way in my thinking. I'm not an emotional thinker. I don't like to give people my emotions, period. But Margaret Thatcher was a great prime minister, I think, for the most part. And I do think we could have a great woman president. but it's very hard. I mean, you know, we can have a horrible woman president just as easily as we can have a horrible male president, but
Yeah, I mean, I think we should, as best we can, I think we should live life based on probabilities over possibilities. I think that living and thinking about, well, if the exception exists, that means it should, like, the exception is the minority for a reason, right? So it's like, I mean, maybe it could happen, but it's like, of all, if it's just because it's possible doesn't mean it's probable. Just because it's possible to have a great female president doesn't mean that's the probability. And it's like, are you willing to bet on that? Like, are you willing to wager the next 4 years of your life and policy on that? Or are you gonna
yeah,
hedge
no,
your
I
bets
think
and you're
most
gonna go?
smart
It's
women are like, I don't want that kind of shit on
yeah.
my. I don't want to be responsible for that. I don't want to age myself 15 years and 4 years and put my neck on the line. They're like, no, thank you. I'll go back with my kids. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
heard the term partner get brought up a couple of times. What does being a partner in a relationship mean?
Wait, can I just say this quickly? I
Yeah,
will
please.
say that the gays have said, straight people, give us back the word partner. Okay, that's for gay people to say, that's my partner. If you're straight, don't use that word because it is
Oh my
confusing to the gay population. That's for them, not us.
Do you agree? Because you
I
used
do
it a couple
kind of
times tonight.
I do agree because you know what? Like you said, I think when I came to New York, I got kind of that term came into my head. A lot of people in New York were not marrying their partners and they called them their partners. And so I got used to that. But then I realized I was like, I never heard that before coming here. It was always my significant other. You would say my significant other if you weren't married, never partner. Like, so that I think people stole it from that community. And I do think we should give it back.
What about the rest of you?
I agree.
Connie?
Yeah, I agree
You
too.
don't care? Casey,
I
you
don't
care? Connie doesn't care?
No.
Spence,
It
what do you
doesn't
think?
matter to me. Your partner, your dating, your boyfriend, whatever. Just yeah.
But
Hey,
doesn't
I
a
New York, they
partner
probably
have... Go ahead.
yeah. In New York, they probably stole partner from law firms. You gotta make a lot of money, pay down those taxes up there.
But doesn't the term partner have some undertones? Because words aren't just interchangeable, right? Like, words have meaning. Just because it's like, you know, there's a difference between the term boyfriend and husband. We assign meaning to those words because they carry weight. So to sit here and say like partner, boyfriend, husband, man, like those all have different connotations. I mean, partner, you know, when I think partner, I think of gays and law firms. I mean, I said that last week's show, but I also think about like 50-50. And I don't know if there's any women on the panel tonight that have said they're down for a 50-50 relationship. I mean, raise your hand if you're a 50-50 kind of girl.
What's your definition
Interesting.
of 50-50?
Well, I don't know. I want to hear what your definition of 50-50 is.
But what's yours first?
My definition, well, in my opinion, I consider 50, when I say 50-50, we're talking about equal decision making, equal responsibility, equal authority.
No.
I don't believe. So then what is the definition then of 50-50?
Oh, no. I just don't think that 50-50, like, no. I think it should be a little more higher weighted and lower, just a bit.
Okay.
Like,
So
I don't
who's
think,
higher and who's lower?
like you said, like girls make, you know, kind of sometimes not the best decisions. And I do agree with that.
I love how you're dancing around it. It's hilarious. It's okay. It's okay. No, I get it. You're like, well, kind of girls sometimes. Like, it's okay. Go ahead.
Well, they do. Okay, yeah, you're right. I don't know. I just find if I can picture like my relationship with my dad, where I'm like, I think this is like, yeah, and then I like takes me maybe a while to think about it, and later on in my life, I'm like, okay, that's why he did that, like, or that's why he said these things, and that's why he acted this way, or, you know, they were signs showing, and like I understand from my point of view why it was so fantastic, but it wasn't the best decision. So I get it. Like, I don't think it should be 50-50. No, I think it should be a little bit higher.
I do.
Well, Larissa, go ahead, Claire. I'm going to get to Larissa after that.
I don't like want the 50-50 life, but I do have like the 50-50 life, but it's like a wavering 50-50 where on some things it's 70-30, some things it's 25-75, some things it's 100% zero. So it's like changing on different things, but
I feel
Larissa,
that.
what is your thing? Would you agree with that, or did you have a
Well,
different thought?
yeah.
Because you're the only one that raised your hand.
Right. And that's what I was gonna kind of speak on is I think it's very gray. Like I think it should fluctuate in a partnership or relationship, what have you. And I love that Connie brought up the definition, because going back to the partner thing, it's everyone has their own definition of words. Even if you go and Google it or read a dictionary, if those even still fucking exist, and look at the definition of words, there's multiple definitions of everything, and then we all have our interpretation of
But
said
not
word.
really, right? But not really, because if there was a different definition, if everybody had their own definitions of words, then language becomes inherently meaningless, and then there's no way we could ever communicate with one another. It's
Like
just like saying,
partnership.
hold on, it's like saying everybody is different, so we can't possibly make any inferences, or we can't do anything like study human behavior or the way that people react because everyone's different. But it's like, in reality, humans are more alike on the aggregate than they are different. Like we're not all like, yeah, every snowflake is different in its makeup, but a snowflake's still a snowflake. You know what I mean? So I want to, Connie, go ahead really quick before I continue to ask the
For
question.
example, like when you just said partnership, like for me, I was just like, I don't think too hard about it. Like if someone was to be like, this is my partner, like I'm going to just automatically think they're dating, they're together, they're dating, right? I'm not going to go think about a law firm. Like, so like different perspectives of like how
And that's
you're
fair,
they're
but I
saying. Like,
think,
they're gay,
but I
but
think
maybe
it's
they are.
indicative. But there are a lot of people out there. Like I've met people who won't use the term wife or husband; they'll use partner, and I think it's indicative of the way that relationship is run. I think what I'm ultimately trying to get to here, actually, Spence, why don't we get these supers real quick? Because I put in a couple of them. Let's just read them really fast, if you would. And I'm going to hold this thought.
Where are we at in these? Yeah, we got a couple lined up here.
Just
right?
go to the starred ones, only the ones that are 20 and above.
Moff Spencer, would you two gentlemen kindly read another Queen Victoria quote? Because they always bringing out these. Queen Victoria quote I sent to your DM. I won't be able to pull up a DM on here. Modern men are unmasculine, modern women are unfeminine. The problem is people understand this detail. I mean,
I have
like
it
that
really
last
quick.
sentence
I'll read it.
Oh yeah, you got it? Okay.
Yeah, I'll read it. I got to zoom in. This is Queen Victoria. I don't know when this quote was written. I am most anxious to enlist everyone who can speak or write to join in checking this mad, wicked folly. This is like, dude, I can't even. This is like from
accent.
Yeah, right. This wicked folly of women's rights with all its attendant horrors, which her poor feeble sex is bent, forgetting every sense of womanly feelings of propriety. Feminists ought to get a good whipping. Were women to unsex themselves by claiming equality with men, they would become the most hateful, heathen, and disgusting of beings and would surely perish without male protection. Okay. In the future, we're not reading super chats that are telling me to go read another message. If you can't fit it in 180 characters, then it's not going to get read.
You get a
so,
whipping.
Yeah, we're going to get a whipping here. Let's go on to the next one there.
Yeah, because again, Connie, I'm English, and we've had 3 female prime ministers, and they've all been terrible. Oh, no. Thatcher started the what is this? Deindustrialization.
Deindustrialization.
Yeah, in the UK, and created banking, London-centric economy, which has been a disaster. Oh. Just all bad prime ministers. What he's saying.
Oh no.
Interesting.
But sorry, that's to me.
All right. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. So yeah, so I think my point, what I'm ultimately trying to get to, and I ever talk about partnership or 50-50, this sort of thing. And I think it's an interesting point that Claire and Larissa brought up about it fluctuates, right? Or it's different depending on the situation. But I'm ultimately trying to arrive at one point. Is there a person in the relationship that has the ultimate authority? And if there is, who is it?
You want us to say you.
I'm just asking the question.
What do you want to say? Connie, what do you want to say?
It is me.
I don't know. I mean, like typically if
all
I
the women
was
are raising their hands
in that position and I had, my perfect guy, I'm, working, I have my kids, my family. Ultimately, if we have a balanced, healthy relationship, I don't mind giving him rights to make decisions. But if he's restricting me from doing things that I like and maintaining my individuality, then that's not okay. But if I can do that, like, then that's fine. You can make decisions. It's great. At least it's probably benefiting me.
But that's the issue, right? It's like you want him to make decisions as long as you're okay with it and as long as they're things that you agree with and you're happy with. But you're implying that if there's a decision that you wouldn't be happy with, you're not going to give him that authority. Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about ultimate authority. We're not talking about decision making whenever you don't care or whenever you feel good or whenever it's beneficial. It could be something where you're like, I don't want to do this. I hate whatever this outcome is. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm kicking and screaming, and he does it anyway because he ultimately has that authority. It's really easy to say, oh yeah, my husband or my man, like he's got ultimate authority as long as he does whatever I like, right? That's not the caveat. It's ultimate authority means ultimate authority.
Yeah, but that kind of touches on what you talked about before, Moff, where you said, like, if you're authority and I'm just going to listen to you, I'm going to start doing things that I don't like to do. Now I'm going to doggy daycare on Sundays because you said so and I'm coming. Like, I don't like you anymore because now I'm just doing things I don't like to do, like you said. Why are you dating somebody if you're trying to change everything about them? So, like, if someone in authority...
Well, that's not what I'm saying. But go
like
on.
that, then don't be with them.
I'm not talking about changing with someone. Well, because anyway, Larissa, go ahead. You wanted to cut in with something.
There's a lot of nuance there. Yeah, there's a lot of nuance there, and it's not really like Moff isn't saying he's completely changing you, turning you into someone else, but he just wants to add a point on there that sometimes he might make a decision that you don't like, and some women will say as soon as a decision is made that they don't like, they are out the door.
That's just being irrational.
Well, I want to go back to... Yeah, go ahead. Finish your point.
Casey's been putting her hand up for a while.
Yeah, I was going to go to
so.
her. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. I honestly think, like, with the male's role, like, yeah, they should be leading, but also, like, the happiest relationships is when it's living by the golden rule. Happy wife, happy life.
Oh, no.
My 2 cents.
All right.
Yeah.
That's it. You got to go. Podcast is wrapped. KC, you're forever banned from the show.
You don't want your wife to be happy?
You said
Wait, what?
you said the worst thing.
I disagree with that one.
The worst
so
thing
hard.
you could say on this podcast.
What?
Happy wife, happy life. Oh my God.
Not saying that don't
Happy
want her to be
wife,
happy,
happy
but
life.
her being happy is
Oh.
not the source of you having a good life.
No. Happy wife, happy life.
What does that even mean? That's not
God.
even an argument, though.
Yeah, and
I feel
So-
like it's so...
your wife.
Yeah.
All right, let's. What do you mean, happy wife, happy life? What does that mean to you?
Happy wife, happy life. If I mean, I have really unrealistic
Oh.
expectations, which is why I'm single.
You have
But
unrealistic expectations. What do you mean? Like
realistic,
what?
unrealistic.
Yeah. What do you mean? Like what?
Which will probably come true one day. It's just not. I mean, I'm
Well, let's hear them.
22.
Okay.
This is an open forum. We want to hear what your expectations are.
No.
We're all friends here.
Come on. It's got to be 6
We're gonna
foot,
tell-
Like
trust
the first
fund.
thing I said.
Blue eyes. Go ahead.
Why?
They're out there.
As
So
fun as possible.
put it
All right,
out
all right,
in the
all right.
universe of what you want.
That's like
because
my
they
worst
are out
nightmare.
Oh, manifesting. We're not doing that either. What is this coming to? We're not manifesting and we're not happy wifing, happy life.
Why don't you
My
like
God.
that though?
Well, I want
Why
to hear
don't
your,
you
I'll
like
tell
that?
you. I'll tell you after you tell me what your otherworldly expectations are for men. Because I bet they're not that
Okay.
bad.
Okay, it's really not that bad. It's not too crazy. I'm very religious, so I want like a man that like is the same religion as me, same values.
Not hard to find.
You never know. Some people
Think so?
are like deceitful.
A lot of religious guys still out there.
Some
but go
people
on.
are deceitful. I don't know. And then I feel like I want someone that's like obviously this is like classic answer, but like providing, but like also like not too much. Like I can bring in a little if need be every now and then.
But it'd be
'Cause
nice if you
I
didn't
feel
have
bad.
to, right?
It would be nice, yeah. It
All right,
would
so
be
just
nice.
say that.
And then
Just say, I want him to bring home the
and
bacon.
like a protective leader,
Yeah.
like but at the same time I want someone to make great decisions for me and like be someone that can make if I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do here? Like someone that I can really confide in and trust. Yeah.
That's it. That's your
Yeah.
otherworldly high expectations. Like, Casey, here's what's going to
I think
happen at
it's-
the end of this show. Spencer and I are going to have email inboxes full of men that are like, please set me up with Casey May and
Here's
send
my
me her
resume.
info. Because look, like, I think it actually is, I don't know if the right word is funny or sad. And this isn't a dig at you directly, but it's like, if that's what you really think the bar is too high, my God, like, what are we doing? Because
I've
look,
heard
like,
that though. Every
go ahead.
younger woman says that. That's why I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine dating right now because if
Now,
that's
here's
what
the
the
deal,
dating
though.
pool is.
Here's the caveat, right? It goes back to, you want a leader, you want a provider, you want a protector, you want a guy that can go and get it, and you want a guy that's going to lead you and take you down the road of good decisions. I'm not telling you not to do this, and this is just my opinion. I'm putting this out in the universe. I'm not saying this directly to you, but I'm saying this in general. Women don't do themselves, women that want that, and that's what most women want, right? Like, if most women are like, what do you want? Protector, provider, provisioning, all that kind of stuff. Women don't do themselves any favors when they choose to go to the route of going and getting a bunch of degrees or making a bunch of money or going and doing all these travel and these experiences and doing all these things that a lot of young women are doing now. Because, like we said earlier, the more you do that, the better you become. And by better, I mean like socioeconomically. The more experienced and advanced a man has to be for you to take him seriously. So it's like, you're in a position right now, like Casey May, we had a Casey Marie, like, who comes on. So I always get the name. So I always think of that name, but you are sitting on a winning lottery ticket right now. You're 22, you're single, you're good looking, you're in the South. I mean, you don't live in the most, I guess, talent rich environment where there's a lot of masculine guys, but you can literally go, anywhere. You can go, there's plenty, you can go to like, what's the next biggest city in South Carolina? I'm blanking. You could go somewhere, North Carolina, you go to Charlotte. I don't know exactly. I'm from Virginia originally. I should know this, but anyway, you're 22.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I should take it seriously.
Guys are finding you.
I agree.
Whether we like it or not, and whether the ladies will agree with me or not, I'm just going with the facts and the research. Men were polled from 18 all the way to 70, and they found women in their early 20s most physically attractive than any other. And it didn't matter how old the guys were. They all settled around 22, 23, 24. You're at the time now where you are at the interesting position where if you do want to get married, you do want to have a husband, you do want to have kids, you are right now, you've got the opportunity to get the highest value man possible that you'll ever be able to get right now because of your youth and your beauty, and because you haven't racked up, maybe you've racked up student debt, but who hasn't? But you haven't racked up a bunch of these, going out and having to be dominant in the world, and you haven't gotten these things where it's like, oh, like, well, I've done this, and this, so this guy has to do that, and that. That's something that I would encourage you to explore. I think that's where a lot of women is like, well, I just want to find myself. I want to go out for the next 6 or 10 years. I'll start looking around for when I'm 30. But it's like, you've got what a lot of men out there who want to be the protector, who want to be the provider, who want to be the leader. You got what most dudes would go crazy for. So, like, what you are sacrificing, because here's the deal. And I'm going to move on from this, and I don't mean to lecture you. It's not the point of this. And I know I'm kind of going on this. I tend to do that. But what a lot of women do, we call this hitting the wall. And it doesn't mean what a lot of people will tell you, where it's like you turn 30 and you look like shit now because you smacked head first into the brick wall. That's not what that means. It's the realization that women have where it's like, the attention that I used to get at 22, at 23, I'm not getting anymore. The kind of guy that used to hit me up and DM me at 22 is not the same caliber of guy that's hitting me up, DMing me when I'm 28 or 35 or 40. So it may not be your ultimate goal, but if the marriage and the kids thing is in your plan and you want the protector and the provider, your dating pool is bigger now than it'll ever be. You can be more selective than you would ever be able to be. And you can attract the highest quality guy now than you will in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, etc. So that's just some food for thought. I don't know if anybody disagrees with that. You're welcome to. I'd be curious. I'll shut up now, but please go ahead.
just about getting the degrees thing, it's funny because my daughter is seriously just wants to go to college to try to find like a man that will be able to provide for her. And she would ask like one of her number one
Diamond diploma,
like,
MRS degree. Yeah.
she would ask them, how is your athletic department, to try to make sure they have like,
that is genius.
Got a bag
That
of
is so
apples.
good.
yeah, she's not
That's great. That is great.
Well, and also
Yes.
too,
Women
they're
go to
encouraged-
school not to get the degree, but just
Find
to
a man.
find the athlete.
Larissa
They're
doesn't
also
like it. Hold on, we'll get there after Dawn. Go ahead,
They're
Dawn.
also encouraging young men to, instead of go to college, to do a trade, go to trade school, and
Yeah.
like, because there's so much money in different trades.
Mhm.
So
Well, not only that, but college right now, and even in the public school system, like these are little beta factories. Like they treat it's the school system, especially public school, and even the college system now is not conducive for young men that have high energy. It's like the kids sitting in a desk all day and they're trying to get rid of things like, gym and recess so they can teach them more calculus or common core math or whatever the hell they got going on now. And it's like he's fidgety and he needs to run around and he's getting into trouble and he's being rambunctious. It's like, no, your kid has ADD or ADHD, so you need to put him on some medication. It's like, no, he needs to run around and like get dirty and scrape his knees and he needs to play tag. And it's like, no, sit in your desk, raise your hand when you want to speak, be a good little boy, ask when you're allowed to go to the bathroom, say yes, sir, no, sir, please. I mean, you should be polite. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but it's like you're taking it's starting at such a young age, and then we wonder, it's like they're making good little betas where it's like, okay, now you go to work for 40 years and your entire life is about sacrifice, and it's about being a good boy and doing what you're told and only asking for permission and sacrifice and all that stuff. So yeah, I think homeschooling is right around the corner from being a big blow up. And I think it rightfully so should be. And I think if you're a young man, unless you're going to go into some sort of STEM degree, or like medicine or law or something like that, then trades might be a better alternative. Unless you're like, now I will say, like, the allure of going to a 4-year college and being completely on your own and being in an environment where like crazy massive hookups are happening on a global and on a crazy scale. Like, yeah, a lot of guys are going to go just for that, but you may think twice if you really are, you'll put on the right path about your future and what your future could possibly look like success wise.
right.
Are you an advocate of like all male schools? I was just thinking along these lines.
I'll do you one further. I want to get to Larissa. Actually, I'll answer that question, but I want to get to Larissa. I want to write that down. But you've been patient, which is great, but I could tell like some of this stuff is not sitting well with you.
And that's okay. It's really interesting
Sure.
to be on this and listen to all these viewpoints, but I just don't live in the world of absolutes. Call me delusional.
Okay.
That's fine. I kind of I see things as they come and for what they are in each like circumstance. And I know that like we're talking in the overarching theme of things, right? So yeah, I'm
Generalization, like generalities.
generalization,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
my brain doesn't do that. It wants to like there's always, the truth lies somewhere in between, right? There's his story, her story, and then the truth is in between that. So
Okay.
like, but there are a couple things, but my question that I wanted to ask you earlier is, why does there have to be ultimate authority? So you asked like who has ultimate authority, but why does there have to be that?
Because there's bound to come at a time where it's a simplistic way of looking at it, but there are certain decisions that inevitably will not be agreed upon by both parties. It could be like, take like school, for example. That's you want to homeschool, you really want to homeschool, or you really want to send your kid to private school and your husband or whoever wants to go public school. And there's no alternative. There's no like happy medium, right? Like, or I guess you could homeschool, but let's just pretend that's off the table at this given time. You want to do A, this other person wants to do B. Neither one of you are willing to budge on this. You're so strongly dug in that your compromise is not an option. how do you break the tie? I mean, no successful company has two CEOs. Like a car has one wheel. A plane has a captain and then a co-pilot. A ship has one captain and then has a first mate. There's never been any sort of successful organization, any successful civilization that has had two people that have been the ruler and the ultimate authority. There has to be a decision that's made by some sort of ultimate authority, because you're bound to run into issues where there's enough disagreements where the tie has to be broken, essentially, and somebody has to take on that role. And preferably it's the man, because not only for this reason, not only because men are more logical and all that kind of stuff, but a woman that doesn't want to take a man's lead or doesn't want him to lead, she doesn't want to be with that guy in the first place. A woman who's not going to defer ultimate authority to her husband or the guy in her life who questions his judgment, that's sending a symbol, and sending a sign that in a signal that is not the dude that she wants to follow into battle, and that is a problem. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, Connie.
Oh, well, I want to get your comment first before Connie. Hold on. I want to get your reaction first.
I'm letting that like marinate, because that's fascinating.
We'll come back to you.
And
we'll come back to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Connie, go ahead.
I believe that I feel like you're kind of making it seem to me. I feel like you're making it seem like they're in competition, but I believe that we're designed to complement each other. We're not competing. So I'm not disagreeing with you about what you're saying. I believe that a strong man provides direction, allowing the women to feel safe and embrace, her feminine or like softness to her. But the flow, the feminine, or us, we present inspiring people, like keeping the man more grounded and connected to something more deeper than logic. You're right. You are a lot more logical than women, for sure. But we do a great job at complimenting you, to making you feel like nurtured and taken care of and feel loved, maybe in a different way. But I don't think we're competing against each other. Like, oh, we can't compromise. So, no, like we're not competing.
But I'm not disputing any of that. But I'm not saying I agree that on the complementary piece. I'm not saying, because if they're competing, they shouldn't be together. Like one of the red flags we talk about is like, if she competes with you, then like, bye, see ya. You should not be competing. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about when it comes to decision making on what is going to move life in the relationship forward, there has to be an ultimate decision maker, because you're just not going to be able to compromise on everything. There are going to be decisions and crossroads that come into play where there's not a third option, where you give up one thing and you give up another thing, and then you are all happy. I mean, it's just, we don't have a single example of how that's ever worked in any organization or any civilization. There's always been some sort of ultimate authority, whether it's a republic, whether that's a monarchy, whether that's a dictatorship. There's always been an ultimate authority to make decisions on how to move society forward and how to move a relationship forward. So yeah, I agree. Like there are things like men and women we say this all the time. Men and women are better together than they are apart. I agree with that. Even though we are adversarial in our mating strategies, right? Like technically, if you really want to get down to it, either the man or the woman gives up their mating or sexual strategy for the other. They both cannot coexist, because women want the highest possible guy she can get to be monogamous with, for the most part, monogamous with. We call that hypergamy, right? Highest possible guy she can get. Men would rather spread seed far and wide, and would rather have a bunch of women and a bunch of different women, because that's how we've biologically evolved, because we, sperm is plentiful and eggs are cheap. You can only get pregnant once every year, but a man can impregnate a bunch of different women in a year. So for any relationship to succeed forward, one of those has to give way to the other. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm just talking about as far as decision-making and authority and leadership. Because then if you don't, then it's like, well, sometimes I make decisions, sometimes he makes decisions. Okay, let's take that one step further. How do you know who's going to make this decision? Well, I made last decision, so now it's my turn, right? Is that how you're doing it? Well, if it's just by chance and flipping a coin, I think that's going to lead to disaster pretty quickly.
Well, that's why
Claire,
there's
you're muted,
roles,
by the way.
right?
Hold on, we're going to Claire real quick.
After being together for like 24 years or so, we definitely instinctually know like what is under each other's purview. It's kind of in more of the traditional ways, like things about school and groceries and such. And I think I do kind of operate more like the executive branch, where I know what things are going to be needed for you to make the decisions. And I'm more like the house orchestrator. I'm like in control of the household and know what things I need you to make the decisions on. But I could think in the overarching way, maybe he is the ultimate decision maker, and like this is kind of the path that our lives are on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of the more telling you that's the map. This is okay. You got to turn now, and like making sure what places we're going to stop at. So I don't know. I'm more in the
look. I think input is important. I'm not saying like men just say whatever and women just is barefoot and pregnant. Like I think the way it works the best is like if a man makes the ultimate decision, but a woman has input, she gets to be a trusted advisor. She's like, hey, and she earns that right. She goes like, hey, like, do you really think you should be doing that? Or like, I think maybe we should go down this. I don't know if you've considered that, because sometimes you can get blind spots here or there. And then it's like, I actually hadn't considered that. I think you're right. Like that's a perfectly viable solution, but it ultimately will, it ultimately will end in I say whether we go left or right. You can plead your case. You can give me a PowerPoint presentation. You can lay out all the facts that you think, however you want to get your point across, but I'll ultimately say yes or no. I don't think it's about just like iron fist, dictatorship, authority. Don't talk to me, like whatever the hell that is. But no, I see what you're saying there, Claire. So that's a fair point.
We keep you guys more grounded. Like we just keep.
Yeah, every guy's got blind spots, right? Like I get that. Yeah,
Well,
I think, and especially because men tend to be more confrontational, more aggressive. We tend to be like, yeah, I want to solve problems with ease. I don't want to sit down and talk. But guess what? That might not always end well. So I buy that. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
Isn't it the old saying, like, every girl wants to marry someone like their dad, and every man wants to marry someone like their mom, because it's like the nurturing, motherly type wife.
Yeah.
And then we want somebody that's going to be the protector, like we felt with our dad. So
yeah, that's a big indicator from what I found. Like one of the best, and after doing this show for a long time and after talking to a lot of women, it seems like this isn't always the case. There's some exceptions, but what we've seen, the rule is the most well-adjusted women, the women that have their heads screwed on the best and the straightest, almost always have a good, it doesn't always have to be dad, but usually it is a good, solid relationship with a strong, masculine, virtuous father. It could be an older brother, it could be an uncle, it could be a grandfather, but some sort of male ideal, because without that, if a woman doesn't grow up in a household where men are respected or men are taken seriously, then she doesn't get to see that example. And so how is she going to value that in a guy? Like, how is she going to value masculinity or leadership if she never saw those things as virtues that were good or positive? So I tell guys, I'm like, dude, when you're on a first date, you got to find, or a second date, maybe not on a first date, but you got to find a way to figure out what her home life was like. You got to figure out a way, hey, like, are your parents still together? Are you, are they divorced? Do you still live at home? Or, when did you move out? Like that kind of stuff. So Connie, real quick, I want to get back to Larissa though, because she's been marinating for a little while now.
That's the other thing of talking about, like the last thing I mentioned on the podcast was like, it's kind of good to maybe know some things about yourself before going into something. Cause like, I need like knowing about my strengths, about my weaknesses, stuff like that to kind of like be straight up,
I want to come back to that. Because we're going to go on a different tangent, but I want to finish with Larissa. You've been marinating. What's the final verdict?
I think it's still out. The verdict's still out. I'm contemplating.
You just think I'm out to lunch. You're like, this fucking psycho that I got on a podcast with is insane.
No. No, I don't think you're insane. I think you have very strong viewpoints, and
So
I love
nice.
that. I am. I've
Too
been
nice.
told that. But, I'm not too nice. I just have a really
All
long
right.
fuse and a lot of compassion.
Well, let's see if we can find it. Let's see if we can shorten that tonight. Spencer, turn up the. No, I'm kidding.
Wait, what you were
I want
saying?
to. Yeah, please.
Having a male in a woman's life, such and such. This goes to my theory that like the best woman or female is someone who was raised with men, and I think the best men are often have sisters, so you have both perspectives, or like one sister at least, you know, and also to make sure you find, like you said, someone who complements you. So if I was raised with brothers, my husband had a sister, and I think it like complements each other perfectly. And maybe if you're the other way, you need to find the vice versa. I'm not sure, but that's part of my theory.
Okay. Interesting. I want to go back to the question you asked me, and then I want to come back to you, Connie. But again, maybe this is where Larissa's.
I want to talk
goes
about
up in
the
flames.
strengths and weaknesses thing.
Okay, well, let's come back to that. I want to answer the question first about all male schools.
Yeah.
I'll take that a step further. Not only do I don't think, I'm getting some feedback. Hold on. Everybody got their headphones in? All right, now we're clear. Not only do I think men and women generally shouldn't go to school together, I don't even think men and women should work together, especially not in like an office environment. I know you're laughing. I really don't. It's like, look, I worked in the corporate world for 10 years. I know what goes on at the holiday parties. I know when sales kickoffs happens. These things are giant fuck fests when alcohol gets involved. Like you're up until very, very recently. And I'm talking about the last 60 years, like men and women didn't work together. That wasn't a thing. At most, you had maybe an executive and an executive assistant, but you didn't have men and women working together in the same capacity, 2 feet away from each other. And I catch a lot of grief for this, but I'll die on this hill. Like the more that I've talked to people and the more research that I've done and the more I've worked in this sort of, I don't know what you could kind of call it, this space, the more I'm convinced that we are so, people want to say like, we've evolved past these urges or we're not these caveman knuckle draggers. I don't agree with that at all. I think we are still so driven by our inherent biology, our sex drive, our desire for resources. And that's why we do anything. And I think that's why I don't think men and women can be friends, because there's always the ulterior motive that a man wants to sleep with a woman. I don't really think men find women generally interesting or fun to be around unless there's an opportunity for sex to happen or some sort of romance. I really don't. Like, I'm so serious. I don't think, because I think guys will, because I think their brains are telling, my brain is telling me she's really funny and she's really interesting and she's got all these awesome things to say, but really that's your brain saying, I want to bang her, I want to bang her, I want to bang her, please, I want to bang her, please. Say the right things so we can get laid. And then why is there this whole thing called, I don't like saying post-nut, but like post-nut clarity? You ever wonder why a guy was really into you and then after you guys get it, he never calls you again? Or maybe he doesn't think you're as interesting as you were 10 minutes ago? Because all of those things he thought was telling him, you're super funny, you're super interesting, you're just this amazing web of ideas that I can't wait to unravel. And really it's like, no, dude, you just want to get laid. And I know that sounds barbaric and I know that it sounds out to lunch, but I really, really believe it. Like based on what I've seen, my own research, and just, I think we're at our core, we're still animals. So yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that stuff should happen. I don't think men and women should generally work together. You're putting like let's call it what it is. Men are women's biggest natural predator. Can anybody disagree with that? You can't. I know it's funny, but it's like, men are women's biggest predator in the wild, and you're putting them in an environment together where things can happen. And especially as women keep men around that are friends or friendly or work colleagues, signals get crossed, signals get mixed up, and a guy who gets rejected, men generally, now women are worse at taking rejection because it doesn't happen to them, but they usually don't resort to violence. A rejected man can be a very dangerous creature. And so when it's under this guise of we work together, we're just friends, like, oh, I'm not going to ever give you the time of day, like Hector in HR or like Bob in sales, like with your big fat gut and your spectacles and like your sweaty whatever, it's never going to happen. And those guys can be dangerous. So I don't believe in I don't believe that you should go to the zoo and climb into the lion's den if that is the best way I could sum it up.
I definitely think efficiencies would go way up if, we
Oh
all-
yeah. Productivity would go through the roof.
Yeah. I'm for it.
Larissa. All right, Casey first. Larissa's probably still marinating. Casey, go ahead.
It'll be really quick. I went to all girls school. I think it's a great thing. It was very productive and it built my self-confidence up a lot. One thing I will add about that is when you're a man in all boys school, you're really awkward around women. Like
Yeah, that's true.
it's just like they kind of suppress their personalities around women, and I think for the rest of their lives they're kind of programmed to do that. That's just my opinion though.
They suppress it basically, or they just don't have experience being around women, and that causes them to be stunted later in life, you're saying?
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think with anything, there's conditioning that can be unbroken with enough time and effort. But it's like, I mean, teen pregnancy would go to 0. Like that would be I wouldn't go to 0, but it's like, if you're not around them all day, like there's very little window for that kind of stuff to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that you're also extremely maladjusted when you're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, when your hormones are just making every decision for you and you're absolutely going nuts and you can't think or see clearly and you're purely driven by your instincts. That's not a great time to be making decisions about laying down with people and making children, because that stuff can be utilized elsewhere. Turn that drive and learn things, learn how to build a business, go work out, build yourself up, learn skills. And I know it's easier said than done because our sex, like there's nothing that can replace, if you want to have sex, like going to the gym is not going to quench that thirst. If you guys know what I mean, I'm sure that you do. But so I don't know if it's the ultimate answer, but I think that I'd be willing to try it. Anyway.
Because of guys being really awkward when they don't have experience with being around women, I'm okay with guys having female friends, with the exception that they have options already. Like they are a guy who has made himself attractive, and he's more friend zoning the girl, and not that he's getting friend zoned and he's waiting around with the hopes that one day maybe she'll change her mind.
Yeah.
So I wanted to add in, you were talking about like men and women not working together, going to school together, but because of urges taking over and parties being fuck fest, whatever, right? I understand all that, but having that awareness, doesn't that take us a step above, right? Like as we're evolving, I understand those urges are there, but being able to control that, are we not at that point?
But no, I don't think we are. I mean, look at the teen pregnancy rates. Like, no, I don't think, it's like saying, hey man, you're an alcoholic. Why can't you just exhibit some self-control? Why can't you just go to a bar and not drink? Like, you're a drug addict, but why don't I just hand you some heroin and all you got to do is not inject it? Like, I think people have limited willpower. Like, willpower is not an effective. Anybody that's ever tried to go on a diet or lose weight strictly on willpower and just will of the mind will tell you that it's a terrible strategy. Like, not a lot gets done on willpower alone. Some people have a lot of it. Some people have very little of it. So, and even when I tell guys and coach guys about like getting in shape or avoiding vices, you've got to put obstacles in your way of getting things that aren't good for you, and you have to get obstacles out of your way on your path to things that are good for you. So enacting on these urges, potentially, getting someone pregnant at a young age, going and being with a girl that you're now tied to for the next 18 years, ruining your family financially because you couldn't keep it. It's the amount of self-control that people have to exhibit to override their 100,000-year-old impulse to have sex. I just don't think I think most guys are not getting laid in high school and college because they can't, not because they are abstaining. So that's what I think. I think it's better just to take it off the table or make it extremely, extremely difficult than it is it's like, why are there still criminals? Why can't people just follow the law? right? Like, why can't we just do that? And guess what? If we just executed every violent criminal, I bet crime in the next 5 years would just disappear. We wouldn't have an issue with it. But because they're just slap on the wrists and we're not cleaning up their streets and we're letting people get whatever they're doing, and because we're turning a blind eye to it, or we're not having harsh enough punishments, then where's the de-incentivization? So no, I think the average human being is extremely fickle and is extremely in need to be in touch with their instincts, and are driven more by that than they are about their conscious willpower.
Just even all the time that's lost in flirtation and like mindless conversation that has nothing to do with productivity, I think comes a lot from that sexual tension, and just nobody's productive when there's sexual tension in the air.
And it's something, I saw this the other day. It's like upwards of 80% of all affairs in marriages start at work. So that wouldn't be an issue anymore for the most part. You would cut the affair rate by 60%, or you would cut it by 75% of down 20% from 80. You know where I'm going with this, but that's what that boils down to too. It's like you're putting your woman potentially, or you're a woman, you're going into the shark tank essentially, and you're telling the sharks not to bite you. You're like, hey, you need to go against your instincts, and I know that I'm this really delicious looking piece of meat, but you need to be a more adjusted, evolved shark and not eat me. That's basically what you're doing. And I just think because we're able to consciously understand this, I don't think that makes us any more well-adjusted or more evolved in a way. I think we just evolved differently.
You mentioned
You still got that look. I know there's something else really quick you want to say.
No, it's just, it's interesting because I feel like that you're not giving the species that chance, right? By just assuming that, I just find it interesting. That's all. Okay. I find it interesting. Yeah.
I just mean the statistics are there. Like, I mean, that should be enough to give plenty of pause. It's like 80% of all affairs start at work. It's like, that's not good. Only 4 people.
Right? You know why that's probably a thing, because you're around somebody all day. The majority of your day is spent 9 to 5 at a typical job, right? So you're around somebody. You find people more attractive, even somebody that you didn't before, because you're around them all the time. That's psychology. So of course,
so you remove them. Yeah, so you remove that. That's the answer. Yeah, you don't give that an opportunity to fester.
That, like, I've definitely, when I've been to work, and like, I'm not even going to sugarcoat this. When I work at a new workplace and I see a guy, there's always that work crush. Like, every girl has this,
I think that's a problem. Yeah, the old work husband or whatever. Yeah, it's a major issue.
Husband, that's a real thing, because you're around them now.
It should die.
Old man is suddenly like so attractive to me.
But I think it's a problem, right? It's a problem. Go ahead.
In Dallas. I worked at a company in Dallas, and it was inside sales. And I'm not kidding. I would have to say probably 60% of the employees, I think we had like 400 at the time, and this was back in 2010. They were all dating each other.
Yeah, literally, that would happen.
Dawn, how many times do you get proposition from clients in your line of work? Like, women in sales get it all the time. From guys that are trying to close, or people that'll take meetings with you, not because they're really interested, but because they want to. Maybe it doesn't happen super often. Maybe you are more upfront about being married and things like that. But I've known women that I worked with in sales where it's like they would get meetings and the guy would just say like, "Hey, I just took this because I thought you were good looking and I wanted to have a coffee with you."
Before I was married, when I did medical sales in Dallas, all the time.
Yeah.
Here, my husband's an attorney, so we know a lot of people.
So he's going to lay down the law.
So they all know. So honestly, I get my stuff based off him more than myself. But yeah.
Got you. Ladies, I'm looking at time here. We got a little bit of time left. Spencer, you wanted to come back to something. I can't remember what it was. You still got it? Something about strengths and weaknesses?
Strengths and weaknesses from what Connie said. But I got another quick question for Connie first. About the work crush or the work husband.
Work husband.
Yes.
Yeah. How attractive is he after you leave work? You quit that job. Is he still as attractive?
No, you're right. You're right. He's not as attractive after I left work, because you know what? Maybe he's still pondering around if I see him like out. I'm like, oh, hey. But No, I think it's not really all there. So like that's why maybe sometimes marriages do like come back after things like that, because typically your affair in your head at work wasn't really like that great, you know? Like it wasn't what you wanted. And that's the fine point about what I'm trying to say about the strengths and weaknesses is if you don't know who you are or what you want, how can you expect someone else to? So like, you know,
The funniest weakness I've ever heard from a girl was she said, "I'm absolutely batshit crazy, but so if you date me, you have to know that going in. I'm just gonna be crazy."
We all want that disclaimer.
But we went through this with Connie on the last time she was on, and again, and I'm curious to see what the ladies think about this, and maybe in your personal experience. Raise your hand, ladies, if you have adopted the mannerisms or the music taste or the personality of men you've dated in the past.
Or your current
husband.
Yeah, for sure.
Dawn, no? You're just
I'm
complete
a country
opposites?
girl, so they usually start listening to country music.
Aw.
But even
Yeah,
little things,
facts.
right? Like sayings, or you enjoy things that maybe he does that maybe you didn't
sayings,
before.
for sure.
Things like that. It could be
Yeah.
anything, right? I'm not talking about just me. I'm saying, but so
Yeah.
so what I mean, and that's not. And when I say this, a lot of women get mad. It's like, well, I say generally women are malleable creatures, and just what that means. And that's not a knock. That's not to say that you don't have your own personality or your own path, but it's. And this is where I go back to my biology for a second. It's all tied into a survival mechanism because women generally can't fight, can't protect themselves if the shit goes down, especially, hundreds of thousands of years ago when we were just fighting with rocks and spears and we didn't have guns. It would behoove you to find the strongest guy you could find and then attach yourself to him, or being a part of the herd or being a part of what's good for the leader is a survival mechanism. We talk about, there's this thing called, this idea called war brides. Basically, you were the wife of some soldier or some chief, then a tribe came over, killed the chief, and you had two options. You could either get killed too, or you're the new chief's wife. And what you would do and because being alive is better than being dead, you would be that new chief's wife. And that's why women generally move on from breakups better than men. That's why they generally don't stay, once they've broken up with a guy, they're completely gone. It's all evolved. It's all about survival. And so going along to getting along is just a feature that a lot of women have. And so I don't generally take a lot of things, like take feminism or political leanings. I don't generally take women super seriously when they say like, I am like this, I'm like this, I'm like this, and I'm like that, because I know, generally speaking, if the right man comes along who's got it going on, you're pretty much going to go with what that guy goes along with. You're pretty much going to adopt his mannerisms. You're going to adopt his political leanings, maybe his music taste, things like that. And it's completely natural. And so that's why I think this whole idea of, well, I need to find myself and I need to become this completed Mona Lisa painting is not generally something that happens, because women are really fickle and they tend to be malleable. And it's like, oh, I was different with this guy, I'm different with that guy. Go ahead, Connie.
It has to happen because a relationship will not heal your past trauma. Absolutely not. Only you can
That's
do
true.
that. You know what I'm saying? If I'm going to just break up.
Yeah, but are we talking about trauma, or are we talking about personality traits and things like that? Like, because those are two different issues.
You're never going to judge a book by its cover. You don't know what someone's went through. Maybe they have gone.
I think you can, but go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. But maybe they show up later on in the relationship because you're mimicking more like lovey days at the beginning. And then you start seeing these things afterwards and the relationship fails. So stop getting into relationships like that. If you're just going to keep getting into relationships and having the same pattern, you're doing something wrong.
Well, I think it's important to,
like you said, put in the effort, put in the time, and you'll become a better version of yourself and for complimenting your partner, right?
Yes, I think
expect someone to fix that.
No. And I think we're in agreement here. I think more so like, yeah, if you've got some stuff in your firmware that's messed up, you should focus on fixing that.
Yeah.
I mean more so like, for example, girl I dated one time she didn't eat red meat for like 6 years. And then on our like third date, I took her to a steakhouse, and then she loved red meat after that. And then we ate steak like once a week. Right. I'm just using that as an example, but it's like something she was like, I don't eat red meat. I think it's gross, or I'm not into it. I haven't had it in like 6 years. I'm like, yeah, steak's pretty fucking cool. You should have some of this. And she was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. So like, I'm using that as it's a low stakes thing. But even when it comes to things like politics, where it's like, when I talk about judging a book by its cover, I'm like, look, there's things you can avoid, I think, as a man, if you've got the pink hair, the freaking face tattoos, the bull nose ring, whatever the hell that thing's going on, like outward displays that say, stay away from me because my internal actually reflects my external. I think there's a lot of women out there that are like, oh yeah, like I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump. And there's a guy that's like, yeah, I voted for him. I actually think he's awesome. And she's like, oh, interesting. Well, I think this guy's good looking and attractive. And I think because you're not going to go on a date with a guy who you don't think is good looking or that there's a potential for, because it's just not how it works. You're like, oh, okay, tell me more about that. And then it's like, by the end of it, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I was a little bit wrong, or maybe I was thinking differently. I'm not trying to use that as a specific example, but I think that's part of the problem that we're in right now. I think that men take what women say too much at face value, and they don't give them a chance to maybe say like, I didn't think about it this way. I didn't think about it that way. When a guy's like, oh man, I went out with her, and say again.
That's called something. That's like a specific thing that actually happens.
Code switching.
Yeah, like when you say something and then somebody's like beliefs and opinion about that completely shifts from what they say. Like
it's a survival mechanism. Like I said, it's like women will go along with what, if they think this man is the alpha man of the tribe and I can see myself with him in a relationship, they're much more likely to take on those opinions. And especially for a guy that's has strong convictions. If the guy is like, ladies, quick poll, choose guy A or choose guy B. Guy A is like, yeah, I voted for Trump. Like, I think he's fine. I don't really care. Like, it's not a big deal. I think he's good for this country. I think he's going to make America great again. You know, he puts more money in my pocket. I think he's a great leader that we need. That's guy A. Guy B is, yeah, like I voted for Trump. Ooh, sorry. But you know, I think he might do some good things. And I think he might be the leader that we need, maybe. Like, unless you don't agree with that, then fuck Trump. Which guy is more attractive off the bat? Which guy would you most likely want to talk to more? Guy A or guy B?
A.
Confident.
Right?
Confident.
Not only that, but yeah, a guy who's in his convictions, it's the same. He voted for Trump, the same thing. But one guy was like, I'm not going to apologize for it. And I'm going to stand on my shit. And like, okay, cool. Like women. So women are much more likely to forgo these rules or these stances they have for a guy that's confident and has those convictions. So Spence, anything you were missing? Go ahead.
Have you girls ever said some crazy shit just to test a guy and see if he'll agree with you?
Yes. All the time.
Every day.
All the time. Why not?
What's the craziest thing that you've said that a guy has agreed with?
Oh,
agreed.
It's the best too when you're asking the question and you're already like know the answer, but you're just trying to see what they say. Like, it's just fun. I don't know.
You just say some wild shit, and you already know whatever you say, he's just gonna agree with. He's going wherever you lead him.
Depends what we're doing.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, Hitler was actually really smart.
Oh.
We just got demonetized from that. That's it. The channel's gone. It's
I know.
over.
I'm like wondering how many hate
Boom.
messages we're getting right now.
Well, I'm
The
looking at the
stream
time
suddenly
here, ladies.
ends. We are banned from
right.
YouTube.
That's clipped. We're a little bit over 2 hours now. I think that we covered a lot of ground tonight. Would love to do a round two if anybody's interested. Connie, I know this is your second time. You're always welcome to come back. Casey, Claire, Larissa, Don, appreciate you all being good sports tonight and being good guests. It was funny because last week we had 2 quits within the first hour and you guys stayed on for 2 hours. Yeah, it was rough, but I know it happens sometimes. No, can you imagine that? Can you imagine somebody not liking me? It's unbelievable.
I think it's
Who would
really
even have
important to
nerve?
get this other perspective, and it does like open up ideas.
No, I think so.
It's
The
important.
If you don't
controversial
give a man
topic.
ultimate authority, that's probably not a relationship you want to be in the first place. I never thought about that, and I think it's actually a very good idea.
There you go.
I think some women don't understand the purpose of the podcast is being controversial, so they're probably.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the purpose is being controversial. I think there are opinions that people say are controversial, but I don't think there was a lot of stuff that was controversial tonight. I said the same stuff tonight that I've said before. I think the purpose is to have open and fun conversations. And it's also for our audience to see the things we talk about manifesting in real time. A lot of times we'll ask women on the podcast and their opinions, and they'll kind of dance around it for a little while. But near the end of it, like when I just did the guy A, guy B example, they're like, huh, okay. Like the stuff we talk about, we're actually in agreement with that. Or when women are coming on here saying, yeah, I want a strong masculine man who is a leader, and it's hard to find. And why is that? And maybe we can, figure out a way to, is there a way that we can continue to make more men masculine? Is there a way that we continue to get them to join groups like ours, like you saw at the beginning, where guys can be men and they can learn from other men and they can learn leadership and they can learn how to sustain themselves and things like that. So, and plus I just like have fun doing it. I think it's a good time. And we've never had too much of an issue, but there's every now and then, you never know. So anyway,
go to mock school.
Yeah, seriously.
and I
Ladies,
have
we're
one
going
more
to pull
thing to
you.
say.
Oh, please, Dawn. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They did a poll too that recently that this year, I believe, or maybe it was 2024, was the most that men have enlisted in the military in quite some time. So I think that's a big thing too. Is
They have or they haven't?
that this is the most they have.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
I think that
was,
there's. I think
it's
they're
coming
seeing
back
that's the
around.
country. I think they're finally seeing a country worth fighting for again. I think that's what that is.
Right.
Connie, go ahead.
Next time on the podcast, you guys should talk about how the woman industry is killing the podcast. Or sorry, the podcast.
Try that again. Cut that.
The women are ruling that right now.
Oh, women are dominating the podcast.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah, women, everything that men think is cool and they make, like, women come in and ruin it and take over. So that's nothing new.
Oh my God.
I knew it. We got to wrap. We got to bring it. We'll start with that next time. Ladies, we'll pull you off backstage. We're going to go through these super chats. But
one of these super chats is asking the girls. Kiza put one that was asking the girls question.
Okay, go for it.
Quick.
I don't think the women are ruining porn. What do you mean?
Oh God.
The women are ruining porn. That's the only thing guys watch porn for is the women. Okay, Kiza says on women's value, an analogy that he likes to use is the flower garden. A flower garden, everyone wants to be untarnished, but as men, we are medieval weapons and need to be forged in fire and brimstone. Do you girls think you are a flower garden?
Whoa, what?
Yeah. Oh, whatever you mean. It sounds nice.
I think I'm more of like
Oh my.
There's flowers there.
Like I don't understand. Everybody's like talking in code. I feel like on these questions.
These analogies.
That's just
Yeah.
It is Kiza.
Like
Every
anything
question, this is Kiza.
conservative is controversial nowadays.
It seems to be that way sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, we're going to get to the rest of these chats. We're going to pull you backstage. Spencer will stay in touch. If you ever want to come back, you're more than welcome. We'd love to have you as a round two. We're always looking for guests. We're doing the same time every single Tuesday, 7 p.m. So it's been fun. It's been a really good time. Everybody was a great sport tonight. We really enjoyed it, had a lot of fun, and I hope you guys will come back.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, girls.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to pull everybody off stage. Bye, everybody. All right, let's get to the rest of these chats here. So we got to Reckless. Let's see. Kim Campbell was a prime minister of Canada, actually. I didn't know that there was a female prime minister, so that's interesting. I wonder how that went. Maybe that's the rabbit hole I'll go down tonight. Women's idea of 50-50 is that they want the man to pay for most things, but they want equal say in the decision-making. I mean, maybe I've heard that. It's like they want to have an input, and maybe they don't want to put up the money for it, but they want to dictate how things are going. Yeah, I don't know a lot of women that want to go 50-50 with the money, but they certainly want to have a say in decision making. So I think that holds water.
Yeah, I mean, even as KC said today, like the guy came to the date, said he wanted to go 50-50, and she's like, no.
Yeah.
party.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
They want equal pay and authority, but not equal responsibility and suffering. Make it men's sense because the math ain't mathin'. All right. Let's speak English in these super chats. JC, having a man work with women is like having a bear work with salmon dipped in honey. Patrice O'Neill. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, we are women's most natural predator. Like, it's not lions, it's not bears, tigers. It's men. So yeah.
Hey, women would even
show,
choose
man.
the bear over the man. So
That's what we keep hearing. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap. We'll be back here same time next week. Spence, anything to say to the people before we get out of here?
nope. You got
All
it.
right. Rich is going to do a show tomorrow on TRT. He's going to do kind of a deep dive. He's been kind of on the testosterone and men's health kick over the last couple of weeks. So, guys, tune in for that, 12 p.m. noon. I think I'll do a office hour show this Thursday. I'm still thinking about topics, but I'm going to try to get into a better habit of doing those shows. So, you guys tune in.
Should have had Rich on here right now to talk to Dawn then.
Yeah, I know. Well,
TRT.
you know, I'm telling you, we're going to get DMs about Casey. I think that it's like, dude, sometimes
100%.
it's like, she's like, oh, my expectations are insanely high. And it's like, that's because here's the thing. We know those are not her only expectations. We know that she wants 6'5", blue eyes, trust fund finance, right? We know she wants those things. And also a man that protects, provides, and things like that. So we probably could have gone down that rabbit hole.
I've already seen guys in this chat right now start simping in this chat.
They're
one
like,
of them
"Where's
super
your
chatted.
DMs?"
I'm not going to call him out, but one of them super chatted.
No simping allowed. No simping allowed. If you're going to simp, you got to pay $100 super chat. That's the minimum super chat to simp. So, guys, we're going to get out of here. We'll see you next time. Shout out to Spence again for getting a great panel together. It's been good the last couple of weeks. We've had a lot of fun. Comment, subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button. It really helps out with the algorithms, and become a channel member, guys. It's 99 cents a month. It really helps us with the algorithms, get more of these views out here. And if you like what we're doing, if you support it, you know, we love the guys that watch for free, but if you really think that what we're doing is important and the message should get out to more men, then, you know, for less than a cup of coffee a month, you can really help us out. So we hope you guys will answer the call and do that. But with that, we're going to get out of here, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed that podcast, make sure you visit my website at richcooper.ca to learn more about my courses, my book, The Unplugged Alpha, community, or booking me for private coaching. Also, if you are a Canadian with $15,000 or more of credit card debt and what you are doing right now isn't paying off the balances, then visit totaldebtfreedom.ca and hit get a free quote to see if you qualify to settle your credit card debt for less than you owe today over the next 48 months. Make sure you check out the top pinned comment on YouTube for all the links mentioned during the show. Peace.